Hi, friends. Welcome back to today's episode of the Life with Loverly podcast. I have such an exciting episode. I cannot wait to talk with Court from the Cheese Gal. How are you?
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm great. It's
This,
summer.
oh gosh, right?
I love summer.
Okay.
I love it so much.
Are your kids doing like the camps and all the things right now? Or are they just chilling?
To be honest with you, we're keeping it minimal. I did this last year and I ran myself into the ground and I said to myself for the summer, I'm like, I'm not doing it. So we do like swimming lessons
Yep.
and they're definitely outside a lot, but I didn't do all the camps,
I know. That's something I feel like I'm not prepared for.
Mhm.
My kids, their daycare is like open 20 like all year round.
Oh, that's so nice.
So, and this will be the last year, and then they're starting kindergarten and K4, and so I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
we're gonna keep it going. And they keep
Yeah.
being like, well, why? I want to go to camp, and I'm like, you kind of are going to camp, like it's
In a way, honey, this is camp.
so yeah. But all my friends have been like running around crazy doing camps, and I'm just like, I don't know if that's the life for us.
It's a lot. We already have full-time jobs, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, and then driving them all around Nashville, I'm like, I don't
Seriously.
think so.
And like that can be depending on where it is. Like I feel like Nashville's kind of big, you know?
Yeah. Oh, especially in the traffic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I don't know the last time that you were here, but the traffic is like LA. Not as big as LA, thank God, but it's so bad. So I'm not trying to,
Well,
I guess talk about.
Nashville's such like a destination spot too. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
I feel like it's been like that for a little while.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
It's grown so much.
it
Lots of
really
tourists,
has.
lots of party buses.
Oh my gosh.
Lots of tractors with people drinking beer.
Floating pools, which just
Crazy.
seems like not safe, but that's fine.
Yeah, not safe and, I think that's all I'll say there.
Yeah. Okay, so how did the Cheese Gal start?
Oh my god. So, I love hosting, I
Mhm.
love entertaining. That's really where, everything stems from. It's just that love of hosting,
Yeah.
entertaining, and all my favorite memories that I can think of revolve around food. So that's for starts, just
Yeah.
starting there. I love food so much, but, I mean, I truly, at 5 years old, would watch instead of cartoons, I was watching Julia Childs, I was watching Martha's daytime show that she had, Ina Garten, like,
Yes.
those were my rock stars, okay? So that's what I was watching. I would do my own, like, fake cooking show with 2 teddy bears, both named Dan. I mean, I'm telling you, Britt, I go, "Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney Tucker, and I'm here to teach you how to make spaghetti." And my mom would be like, "What's happening?" I'm like, "I've got a cooking show." So it really all kind of started there. And then, my mom would throw these, like, epic parties, and I would just watch her do her thing and think, "I wanna do that someday." But my godmother was really the one who taught me at 15 years old how to make my first cheese board. It's
Okay.
Cheese Gal.
Yep.
Um, I was at her house having, like, a slumber party, and I said, "Teach me how to do this. How do you make it all look so effortless?" And she gave me a few rules to live by. Really, this is, like, my life mantra. Always have a chilled bottle of champagne in your fridge just
Mhm.
in case you need to sell what is this little
I
thing?
know.
Have you seen how this has been doing this lately? You can also make fireworks happen, which I forget how you do that, but anyway, have a chilled bottle of champagne, and she said, "Keep cheeses and meats and accoutrements on hand so you can always throw together a cheese board.
Mm.
It looks impressive, but you can do it quickly, and it feeds everybody." And so she taught me how to make my first cheese board at 15, and over the years, it was something I just became obsessed with, and I learned tips and tricks on how to elevate it until finally around, I don't know, my, like, mid to late 20s, became, like, the go-to gal in my friend group and my families, and I was making cheese boards for weddings and showers, and when my husband was still touring, I would have my girlfriends come over whenever I would put my baby to bed, and I'd make cheese boards as long as my table, and so that's where the love of everything started, and then I turned it into a business when I turned 30, 29, 30. It was called Cheese Gal. Actually, it was Nashville Cheese Gal. Launched it on Instagram, and I kind of grew both at the same time. The business exploded, but so did my Instagram. So I was
You're
almost
like,
doing content creation. It was a lot, and I did that for years until a couple years ago. I hung up the business side, and now I'm doing content creation full time
oh my
and recipe
gosh.
development.
So, what was life like back when you were taking these orders for cheese boards?
Insanity. I actually don't know how I did it because I didn't actually have any employees, until year 3, I think, when I opened my storefront in downtown Nashville in 2020, or 2021, what year was it? So we kinda went, like, 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah.
Life was really hectic,
Yeah.
and I have kids. At the time, I just had my youngest, but like I mentioned, my husband, used to tour with a country artist, and so he was on the road full time, and I was making cheese boards full time, delivering them myself also, so prepping, making, delivering, all with no help from
Yeah.
my then 2-year-old. It was really I don't know how I survived, but somehow I did. I just did it, I guess, but it was wild.
It's
Wild time.
so funny because I heard the stat the other day that said kids don't have memory until they're like 4.
Mm,
And I think about that sometimes with just like my kids and just how, sometimes I've just like an entrepreneurs, especially who's like kids just like come with them and do all this stuff. And it feels so crazy. And I'm like, am I ruining them? And
mhm.
then maybe they won't remember any of
They
that.
won't even
So
remember.
I think we're
Although
good.
I will say, I think she does remember because she calls herself the uncheese gal. This is like my she's 6 going on 30, okay? So, but I think she remembers because she has such an aversion to cheese, and I think it's because she smelled so much of it in her toddler, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry."
The uncheese
Oh,
gal.
good. The uncheese gal
You're
is what she
like,
calls herself.
huh, okay, this is gonna like circle back and you're gonna appreciate this when
You're
you
gonna one day.
right, are
Oh my
hosting.
god. Yes.
Golly, isn't
So
it
funny.
crazy how, like, you think back and you're like, "How did I survive that period of time?" Like, that just felt
Yeah.
like insanity.
Mhm, mhm.
I
I think I blacked out.
yeah. Well, and it's something that you can't really prep in advance. Like, making a cheese board is I mean, it has to be
Yeah. Yeah,
refrigerated, it
yeah.
has to, like
Mhm.
some of the other things that you put together, it sort of is like a last minute garnish.
Right.
So
I was taking on when I was still by myself, I think I was doing somewhere between 30 to 35 boards a day. I would wake up, I mean, hours before she would wake up, and I would just knock them out and then drive them around, and it was so good to finally have a storefront because then I had the kitchen that was
right,
there, and I had employees and then drivers, and then we kinda scaled the operation, but then that became too big,
right.
and 2 years ago, like I was mentioning, I made the choice to I'm like, "Wait a minute." The passion for all of this started at 5 when I was pretending to have the show, and so that's what I kind of feel like my Instagram is now, like, I get to have that,
Right.
that whole
Like,
where it's my own show on my Instagram, and I'm developing recipes, and I just got my first cookbook deal, which I'm so excited about.
I can't wait to talk about that in a little
Oh my
bit, but,
gosh.
like, I am freaking out for you. Like,
Thank you.
watching the video that you put up, I was just like
Oh,
I think all the girls in my office were in tears because everybody was
oh
like,
my
"Did you
god.
see your video?"
So sweet. No, I feel oh my gosh, but I feel that love. I feel so supported, just by everybody and their words of encouragement. Like it's been really, really humbling and incredible.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
stoked.
oh, okay, I can't wait to get into that in a second. Um, so now you're no longer Nashville Cheese Gal. You
Mhm.
dropped the Nashville, so the brand isn't, obviously just in Nashville. And so
Right.
you're just Cheese Gal. And the brand has expanded more than just cheese board. So tell me a little
Mhm.
bit about what the brand looks like for you now.
Yeah, and that's been kind of the evolution, I guess. So, like you said, I started as Nashville Cheese Gal. That was really the business. And
Mhm.
then a couple of years into that, I was like, wait a minute, maybe I can scale this at some point. So we dropped Nashville. And then as I grew into content creation, I started doing all these recipes. And granted, there's always cheese normally involved in my recipe, especially like my dirty martini. I'm like hand stuffed
And
blue cheese
cheese.
olives. Okay, there's cheese. But yeah, no, it really. I feel like it still works because it's still in the food space, and I feel like
Totally.
talking about a cheese board that doesn't have to be the focus anymore for that name to still make sense.
Totally.
You know,
Well, because like
I don't
cheese is
know.
involved in like so many recipes.
So many things. And I think it speaks to, the essence of what the brand is, and for me at this point, I feel like it's finding a moment in every part of your day. If it's one little 5-minute thing, you're sitting on your couch eating an elevated saltine with French butter and Florida Sels sprinkled on top. It's still that being intentional about finding that moment to celebrate yourself and go,
Yeah.
I deserve this.
Totally.
You know? And so that's what it's kind of evolved into.
Well, I also think too, like I relate to just your Instagram overall because I'm like, okay, like this girl who loves cheese and that's what her name's called, like surely I'm gonna love everything else she's posting, so it's like hook, line, and sinker, like
Love
you
it.
got me.
I love it. No, there was a point about a year ago where I had a few people going, do we take Cheese Gal out? And I went back and forth, and I finally was like, no, I still think it's the brand.
Yeah.
I still think it's the brand. I think if we go to just Cortney LaCorte, you lose the brand recognition, but
yeah.
also that I built, but also, I don't know, it's not as fun.
Well, you can do something with Cortney LaCorte later, I mean, who knows?
1000%.
I always think about that too with Loverly Gray. I mean, a lot of people think that's my like first and last name, and it's not.
Yeah. You're like, fun fact.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But then I'm like, but if I ever were to change it to Brittany Sjogren, I'm like, that's people don't like connect the Loverly. I mean, people all the time are like, it's Loverly. And I'm like, it is.
Yeah. It's your second name.
Yeah.
Right? People do the same thing with me. Sometimes they're just like, Cheese Gal. And I'm like,
Right.
hello. Like,
Right.
It's our
Or they're like,
brand.
I know this isn't your name. I don't know your name, but hi.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
we can connect regardless if you know who I am.
I love that. I love that. And that's incredible. It speaks to what you've built too.
It's been an adventure. I mean, as you
Right.
know, like building an online business and brand and just putting yourself out there is like a wild ride.
So wild.
Yeah.
It's been so fascinating to be fully in this side of, what we do.
Right.
Learning every day. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. Okay.
But-
Because you like obviously you have a family and you share about them on Instagram. How do you feel like that has been and like in combination with everything else that you share?
I feel like I think it's definitely opened up more doors because I almost touch on a little lifestyle now
Yeah.
with my content creation. But I also feel like when people feel like they're in on it or they're on the journey with you or they know Charlotte's name, which sometimes can be a little creepy when we're out about. And so I don't know. How do you feel about showing kids? Do you get I go back and forth.
It's hard because I started when I didn't have kids and then we did IVF to get pregnant with my first. And so that was like a big part of our story. And so then I'm like, my prized possession, everything we've been like working towards and praying for, like here she is. And then I felt like I showed a lot about her, but then I was like, I don't really want to be like a mom on like I wanted to be a mom, but I didn't want to like do like mom life things. I wanted to still be like, here's fashion, here's what you can wear to these events, like as a mom, but not like here's the diaper I'm using,
You didn't want your brand identity to be completely just like mom life.
Yeah. Exactly. And so then it was like cute to show them every now and then and then I sort of was like, I don't know, I just felt like security wise, like what if they don't want to be seen or like for their safety, people would come up to us like in Target or wherever and oh, hey, Collins and Hazel. And I'm like, this is weird.
I've experienced the same thing.
Or my kids, after somebody that like comes and says hello, they leave and my kids are like, is that one of your friends? And I would always be like, yeah, they follow mommy on the internet. And then I was like, kind of like, I don't want them to necessarily like think that these strangers are my friends because then I don't want somebody to be like, I'm friends with your mom.
Yeah.
Come.
That becomes a safety thing.
Yeah. So then I've kind of been like, oh gosh, like, so I've sort of made the switch a little bit. Like Loverly Gray has turned into so much more of like a style. Here's where you're getting the outfits and I will throw the kids in every now and then, but I kind of really have just let it to be
Pump
like
the brakes.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I've done similar, although I feel like the last month I've been showing them a lot.
Well, when they're home and it's like, here we are.
Yeah. But I feel the same as you. I think it's so tricky to navigate. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, I mean, this platform has only been around for a little more than a decade. So
Yeah.
all of us are kind of like navigating this together on like, what does it look like in 20 years when our kids look back and they're like, oh, I didn't want to be, I don't
On.
want, yeah. So it's really hard,
I
but
know.
I feel the same as you. I go back and forth and showing them some, I think for me, what's been really great about, and important to building the community of Cheese Gal is they feel like they know what's going on in my day. And of course there's the kid stuff too, but I'm the same as you. I don't want to like it to be the only thing that I'm showing.
Right.
But I think that there's a funny POV sometimes when I'm like, listen, my kids have had mac and cheese 3 times this week. I've got to put dinner on the table in 30 minutes and I have nothing to do.
Because that's
relatable.
so relatable. Other moms
Yeah.
are like, yes, but like, what is she going to do? Because I need
Yeah.
to do that too.
Yep. Totally. You hear Bluey in the background and maybe a meltdown.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are your kids' palates? Like, what are they liking?
God.
Or are they just, like every other kid who's like, my Hazel wants chicken nuggets and French fries literally every night. And I'm like, we can't. We gotta throw in some vegetables.
My youngest, getting her to eat a vegetable is like, you would think she was being tortured.
Right.
Like, we can't get her to actually eat anything. So I have to hide it. For her, I'm hiding the veggies. She has no idea that in the spaghetti sauce, mommy threw in some blended broccoli or something. My oldest, her palate is so refined. And granted, I will say some of it, I'm like, we did that, didn't we?
Yeah.
She's sending things back to the kitchen, aka to me, and she's like, "This needs a little more flaky salt, Mom." And I'm like, "Okay,
I don't think I asked you.
Or she'll go, "Mom, can we eat dumplings tonight?" I'm like, "There we go." Okay. Yeah, I would say they really need their food properly seasoned. That's a big. Mom, like I just said, I can have some Cholula. I'm like, sure.
You're like, things your friends probably aren't saying. You should like
1000%.
make a like a notes in your phone that's like things my kid says that yours probably doesn't with all of these.
Truly. I did a video on this probably like a month ago, and it was of Ellie, who's 3. I was making her avocado toast, and she kept saying, "Mommy, I need more flaky salt." And I'm like,
Okay.
I have no one to blame but me.
Yeah.
So.
I guess you've heard me say that a lot.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think what they pick up as they're watching you like say these things, to your phone and oh, and now I'm adding this on whatever. Okay, Hazel or Collins will do that with me. I'll be like, hey, I'm doing a video, and she'll come up and she'll be like, and this is from Amazon, and you can click right here. And I'm like,
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Me too, girl. That's Charlotte. She's like and subscribe. I'm like, okay.
I know. I'm like, I need to untrain you to doing those things. That's when I'm like, okay, let me do this alone.
Maybe we need a little air, fresh air outside.
That is so funny. Okay, so I want to give the Life with Loverly community some practical ways to entertain this season. So let's start with some key elements to constructing the perfect cheese board. What are 5 elements every cheese board needs? Okay,
so what I would say is it's, for me, so important. Stress-free entertaining is my thing.
Yes.
So even stress-free cheese boards. So we're going to call this one, your mother-in-law's coming over in 30 minutes. You got to throw something on your counter so she doesn't look at you like, what have we been doing today?
Right.
So for me, I keep these things on hand, right? So have your cheeses in your cheese drawer. There are things that you can keep in there for a long time. Aged cheeses specifically have a longer shelf life, refrigerator shelf life normally. So like put an aged cheddar on there. Okay, put aged Gouda, whatever. Brie can last, a month or 2, depending on how well it's wrapped. So you've got your cheese. If you eat meat, this is where prosciutto would come in, or salami, and those things are cured. Normally can last a while, so you can keep that on hand as well. Obviously, you need your vessel, your cracker, your baguette, your little toast, whatever you want to put on your board. You got that. Then I like including fresh fruit. I love putting fresh fruit because meat and cheese can be kind of heavy. So something that kind of like lightens and brightens and also complements. So like right now, berries are in season. Blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, and also fun little tip just for plating. Your strawberries, keep your green stem on and just slice those in half, and you can kind of like display them and adds a little fun visual,
Okay.
just a little elevation. I also like dried fruits, so like apricots.
Yes.
And then, I'm giving you more than 5. And then nuts of some sort, and then always garnish.
Okay.
Just go out to your herb garden. I would do that, except for I kill every plant that ever enters my house, so no herb garden for me. If you have like a little mint sprig, it's like putting a bow on a present. It already is so beautiful, but it just takes it up a notch. So a little mint, or even like a little rosemary.
Yes. I love a
As
rosemary
little pot
sprig.
green. Love a rosemary sprig. And you can do that kind of like seasonally. Rosemary, I love using rosemary, especially like fall and winter.
Yes. Okay, so where is your favorite place to, like, if you're going to run to a grocery store to like quickly grab all of these things, what is that grocery store?
Honestly, Trader Joe's or Whole Foods,
Yeah.
or the grocery store these days, like Publix has a great cheese selection. Kroger, nationwide, a lot of them have the Murray's cheese counter. And Murray's is a really famous cheese shop in New York City.
Okay.
So a lot of them have like a Murray's cheese counter within Kroger. Great little life hack. You can get some really delicious stuff. And I would say just like, don't feel like you have to overcomplicate it or pick all these super fancy cheeses. I like to always have one, what I call like a conversation starter. So like one for me for that would be Humboldt Fog. I love Humboldt Fog.
Okay.
It's like my desert island cheese. It's not quite funky, not quite blue at all, actually, but it kind of teeters.
Okay.
It's enough where people are like, "Did you try that? That's so good." Okay, and it kind of gets the conversation going.
Okay. Man, I feel like I could just have like every type of like all the cheddar cheeses. Just like I just want like that.
I love cheddar. Cheddar and a Ritz. Cheddar and a Ritz. It just hits at 9 p.m. on a Monday. I'm like, this is my dinner.
You're like, yes. Also, like, how convenient is girl dinner? That's like a thing.
I love girl dinner.
It's so easy.
I love girl dinner. Oh, yeah.
My kids, if they're not eating chicken nuggets and french fries, they are eating some version of girl dinner, which is like cut up cheese, apples, carrots, a little bit of like a ham roll up, or I'm like sectioned out on a little plate, and I'm like, gosh, you guys are so lucky.
I know. Could you imagine? We had Lunchables.
Right?
That was our first cheese board.
No wonder our generation loves cheese boards so much. Thank you,
raised on it.
Lunchable. Yeah, that's hilarious. Okay, a question for you.
Yeah.
When you're serving, when you have all your cheeses out, is it better to leave the cheeses like together so that like as the person is going to make their selection, they have to cut the cheese, or should you like pre-slice it?
I mean, for me, especially if it's like, say we're using an aged cheddar and it comes in a big block, I would go ahead and make little crumbles with that, just because think about how many times you've gone to the parties and there's just like a big knife stuck in it and no one touches it all night because they're like intimidated to. I mean, I would
you're like
get into it, but also,
this is your thing.
That's me. But I would definitely like pre-cut your harder cheeses for sure. So like I was just mentioning, let's say you have a block of aged cheddar. Take the tip of your chef's knife, and just twist your wrist like this, and it makes these cute little crumbles that you can just
like
put
bundle together.
Okay, and it's more inviting for people just to pick up and grab.
Easy. I also sometimes I'll do like, there's this one type of cheddar that's like I don't know, it comes in more of like a square block, and I'll like slice it up.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of like make like a pretty little like accordion.
Like fan.
Yeah. And so then I'm like, that's
cheese.
easy to just like pick up and then like put whatever else, if it's like a grazing situation. I also think of like if you're in the like a line to get, like, how like at a baby shower or something, it's like, oh, everybody like get some snacks. And then you're like waiting for the person to like awkwardly get into the cheese board, and you're like, okay, I don't want that anymore.
Yeah, you're like, okay, well, we've moved on. Yeah, I know. I love that you fan your cheese.
Yeah.
That is one of my biggest tips. It not only, like we were just talking about, makes it easy for Susan that's ahead of you, taking 30 minutes to grab the cheese, but it also makes it's visually interesting.
Right.
I love adding any little thing that I do. How can I make visual interest just sort of like pop? And that's how you do it. And it creates some texture and movement to your plate. You can fan it around your little ramekins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do the same.
Okay, so tell us, what are some, like, if somebody has like never done a cheese board and maybe
Mhm.
they're like hosting and they're like,
Mhm.
I need to run to TJ Maxx and get some dishes or some boards and some cups and ramekins, like, what is like something you should just always have on hand that
Like the actual vessel itself.
yes.
Honestly, for me, if I'm running into TJ Maxx, I'm going to grab a board. I love using a cutting board. It's kind of
Yeah.
like my go-to. Or even like a serving platter that has a little bit of a lip on it because it
Can
keeps
like
everything
hold it.
in, Mhm.
Yes.
And a fun little tip, just as a little sidebar, when you go to wrap this, right, and you're taking it to your friend's house, start with a couple layers of saran wrap, like underneath your board, and
Okay.
then wrap it up over like this,
Okay.
and then do a wrap from on top. So it really seals it in. And trust me, I
Oh.
used to deliver hundreds
Right.
of these. So
You know.
it's foolproof. Yeah, it really is really, really great. Yeah, so I would grab either a cutting board or a really pretty serving platter.
Okay.
I would get a few different types of, like you said, ramekins or little dip bowls. Get like 2 or 3. I would get 3. I like doing things in threes, which I think isn't that like a design tip? You always do
I
things in
think
threes?
so. Or yeah,
Something
definitely
like
in
that.
odds.
And then let's see what else. Maybe a little honey dipper if you can find that.
Like
I
a
know you can
little
grab
like
one on Amazon. Mhm.
Yep.
Or like little spoons if you have like little tongs. That's great too.
That's a good idea.
Those are the main things I would grab. I feel
And
like.
what about like should we have like some cheese knives on and like a
Oh yeah,
little,
yeah.
because you
Mhm.
can like get those
Grab a
little,
couple.
like a set of 3, like
Mhm.
anywhere.
Yep.
That's
Have
always a
those in
really
your
good gift too.
silverware. Great gift. That with a cheese board.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Huh.
In 2026, a great gift would be my cookbook with
Yes.
a cheese board and cheese knives. Like, wow. Merry
And just like
Christmas,
a big
everybody.
bow.
Yeah,
We're gonna like
exactly.
redo this episode when it launches, so we'll have the
I would
updated
love that.
version.
Oh my God, I would love it.
We're putting it into existence
Just
now.
plugging it already.
Okay, so we've got our cheese board, but now we need our
Mhm.
wine, our cocktail.
Yeah.
What are we pairing with this? What is your go-to? What is like an easy girls' night? Obviously
Yeah.
champagne, but if we're wanting to spice
Obviously.
it
Oh,
up.
I love anything sparkling with
too.
especially like a creamy brie or cream. Like St. Andre is one of my favorite soft cheeses. It's a triple cream. It's got, I forget how much cream and butter in it, but it's like taking a bite out of butter in the best way. That didn't sound
Yeah.
as appetizing, but it's just so creamy and fabulous. That with like a little, I'm really going off on a tangent now. You can tell this is my
great.
passion.
This is great.
I would take a little bite of St. Andre, a little dollop of like fig jam, topped with like a little salty prosciutto. So you got the creamy, the salty, the sweet, and it's so good.
Yum. And then
What
your
was the
glass of
question?
bubbles beside you.
Yeah.
What are we
Oh my
drinking?
gosh. We're drinking white wine with that for sure.
Okay.
I would drink sparkling, so either champagne or sparkling wine.
Mm.
I would say, to be honest with you, with a lot of cheeses, I prefer pairing with white wine,
Okay.
especially something that's like zippy and acidic and sort of like cuts through the fattiness of cheese, something that really complements, doesn't compete. I find, well, I guess it depends what cheese is, but there are some reds that I would put with cheese, but I just prefer white wine with cheeses. I feel like it just
Yeah.
complements a little bit better versus like competing.
Yeah. I love a Sauvignon Blanc
Mm-hmm.
with a cheese. Like, also, I think in the summer, rosé, Sauvignon Blanc, obviously bubbles, it just feels also refreshing and crisp.
Yeah.
And then you're getting like that like deliciousness of your cheese bite, but then you got the crisp beverage. That's where I feel like
Totally.
the red wine is more of this like bold, like wants to take it over.
Unless it's like a really light, almost chilled, like I love serving Beaujolais, which is a French red. It almost is similar to like a Pinot. It's very light, and when you serve it just slightly chilled, that can be really delicious. But I agree with you. I feel like the reds can be a bit heavy, and you want
Yeah.
to keep it light and bright. I love a Chablis. Chablis is one of my favorites. It's a
Okay.
French
I
white
don't think I've
unoaked
ever
Chardonnay.
had that. Oh,
Oh my gosh.
see, I don't really like Chardonnay because I feel like everything I've tried has been oaky.
Okay, so I think this is how I used to be too. I used to say, "Oh, I hate Chardonnay," but what it was, I didn't like heavily oaked Chardonnay because it like a stick of butter or an oak bomb, and I don't like
Yeah.
that at all.
Right.
French Chardonnays, though they're still aged in an oak barrel, there's not that heavy oak at all. They're actually quite light and refreshing and have some nice acid to it too, so it kind of balances out. Try a Chablis and then
Okay.
report back, or a
Okay.
Sancerre.
Okay.
Sancerre is also
Yes.
fabulous.
My mom, she will pull out a Sancerre every now and then. So that's
Oh,
a good one.
I love it. I like her already.
She's a
She
great
knows what she's
entertainer.
doing.
So she
Oh,
does
see?
know.
Love that.
Okay. So another one of my favorite things that you do is the Caesar salad. Like how to like upgrade your Caesar salad, your
Mhm.
bagged salad. Doesn't even
Mhm.
have to be Caesar.
Right.
Tell our listeners about that because I do it on Instagram because of you, and
Oh,
I
I
feel
love
like
that.
people need to know.
You know what? I'm all about just the little tips on how to
I
elevate
know.
what's already what's easy, what's accessible. And if that's a bag of Caesar salad, then you know what? That's my legacy and I'm happy that it is.
Yes.
So I love Caesar anyway. One of our favorite restaurants in New York, Don Angie, their Caesar, they have that crouton crumb.
Mm.
And so one of the tips that I say with this elevating your Caesar salad, so that comes with croutons. Normally it comes with your dressing, it comes with the cheese. To elevate that, crush your croutons. Like put it in, just take the bottom of your Stanley or whatever and get that to like a fine crumb. And I love the texture that it adds to the salad. It also feels like, oh, this is a little more elevated.
Right.
Isn't that great? And then the dressing that comes in it, or if you have bottled dressing, whatever, add some lemon juice, season it with a little salt and pepper, whisk it up. Does it need a little oil? Like, you know, you can
Yeah.
add things to it and just kind of taste it as you go. And that's the whole thing with making something feel more elevated, more bougie, even though it's from a bag or from a
Yeah.
bottle. And then just put some cheese in your dressing too, and then do it all over again. Like so, once you plate it all, you've got your crouton crumb, you've got your beautiful dressing, your cheese, mix it all up, and then season again. A little flaky salt and some pepper
Yes.
to finish it off.
So it's funny, flaky salt. So when we moved into our house, we worked with designers and they like came and like set everything up and kind of staged some things and like dressed like designed our exposed cabinets and things like that.
Right.
And one thing that they left was this like little canister that sits on our countertop and it's flaky salt. And my girls always open the top and there's this like big spoon and they're like, what's this? You know, and I'm like, first of all, don't eat a bite of that.
My kids
just
do.
Straight.
Just straight. They'll just grab it.
Yeah. And so they're like, what is this? I'm like, it's flaky salt. Just like leave it there. But they love playing with it.
I put on everything.
Like, thank you. Oh, it's
How
so
many,
funny.
this is a random question, but do you have several types of salt or are we crazy? We have like 5 or 6 types of salt.
I think we probably have like 3 maybe. Like a pink Himalayan salt, the flaky salt, just like a table salt.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in the like grinder though, if that's a different or some, I don't know, maybe.
I wonder if it's just like sea salt or something.
Probably sea salt. I would say like I definitely don't have any like cool salts like I'm sure you do.
Well, it's also a problem. Like we're running out of, the reason I'm asking is because, so next time if you see me making a video and I'm using flaky salt, people give me so much crap about this. It'll say pepper on it. And it says pepper because we have to somehow like be able to tell the difference between the salts that we're grabbing. Because I'm looking at like 4 salts on my counter right now. We've got like a kosher salt, which is in the salt mill.
Yep.
The flaky salt is in the pepper. We've got Florida Cell, that's off to the side. And then we've got our I think I might have Celtic salt.
You need to get like different colored grinders and then just like, oh, the blue one is this, or oh, the wood one is this, and
label it.
Hey,
I
I
love
mean,
it.
a perfect opportunity for a label machine and just go to town.
There, tap here.
Link that in your
Just sell
Amazon
that.
storefront.
Right, exactly. I even have purse salt.
Oh my
Carry
gosh.
flaky salt in
Okay.
my purse.
So I recently just got into the lime packets. It's like true lime and it's crystallized
What?
limes. Like it's like and they have lemon and it's a little packet and one packet is a lime wedge just crystallized. And it is so good. I put it in a coconut LaCroix and it really is good. My hairstylist actually introduced this to me. So shout out to Suzanne for
Wow.
that tip. But I talked about this on Instagram and people were like, I carry those packets and I put them on my salads in restaurants and just like adding a little like lime or lemon to
Genius.
like anything.
I love it. Like the way that things like this are what really get me going. Like, that is
Right?
incredible.
Like I
Like,
also
wow, that's how you
feel
can
like
elevate.
sad I didn't know about that and I'm 35.
I know.
Like where has this
It's like,
been?
how long have we lived without it? I know. I do the same with little Tabasco, like,
Yes.
from room service, the little Tabasco things that
Yes.
come. I put them in my purse too. You never know when you need it.
Another thing is like carrying your own like this is a little kind of crazy, but like your own olive oil and vinegar, like in little packets to like take to
Yep.
restaurants and like
Listen, you got to do what you got to do. Okay. If we're elevating our lives, bring your own olive oil, bring your own salt,
right?
whatever
Like
it takes.
how are you going to live the best version of your life? And if it's bringing your own, then that's it.
BYOS. Bring your own salt. Oh my
Oh my
God.
gosh.
That's incredible.
Okay, so I love when you post about the perfect bite and pairings on
Mm.
Instagram. Walk
Oh,
me
yeah.
through an example of what a perfect bite entails and what do we need to think about when we are pairing this perfect bite with some wine?
Yeah. Okay. For me, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier is like with the wines, finding something that complements and doesn't compete, right? Something that, like, for instance, if we're pairing a beautiful, creamy, tangy goat cheese, right? It's really
Mm-hmm.
creamy. So you want something really acidic or bubbly, even that kind
Mhm.
of cuts through that. One of my favorite bites, I love talking about this, by the way. It's like my whole personality is the perfect bite.
Yes.
Especially right now with peaches, like
Mm.
a slice of peach, like a big round one. Like, don't do the
Okay.
wedge, just do a big round one where that's your vessel, that's your cracker,
Okay. Yep.
if you want to look at it that way. Like a beautiful slice of goat cheese on top, a little mint, even basil. You could do like a little peach, goat cheese, basil, maybe
Okay.
balsamic on top, a little flaky salt, a little pepper. That's your bite. And I would do that with like a Sauv Blanc or a Sancerre.
Yeah.
That's what I
I
would do there.
it's so funny. I have like a shared grocery list with my husband and he does most of the grocery shopping. And so literally today we've been like writing down the ideas and he's going
Yeah.
later and I'm literally going to update peaches, goat cheese,
Yeah.
mint.
Yep.
And we are going to
And I will
have this
report back.
tonight.
Yes. I need a picture later, Britt, of you guys enjoying this
Seriously.
on your couch.
That
Kids are in bed.
sounds so good.
Yep. Date night at home.
I
But
saw
see, isn't that the fun thing? It's like you can elevate a little moment of every day.
This also feels like, do you remember eating when we were kids, like the celery and the peanut butter and like the ants with the raisins? Like I feel like we now are doing like making those type of combos with a fruit or vegetable and then like some type of like creamy something and then a little something else on it. It's like, what can we put
Exactly.
together to like just make us feel good?
You know, we work so hard. All of us as humans. Number one, it's hard to be a human,
Yes.
but like we're busting it. So it's like, why not just for a little 30 minutes, whatever it is, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just take time to celebrate yourself and go, this is nice. This piece of
Yeah.
goat cheese on a peach with a little glass of Sancerre is so nice.
Well, I think anybody who is listening who follows you on Instagram already knows how much you love a couch caviar.
other personality.
Literally,
Couch caviar.
when you said this is my personality, I immediately was like, couch caviar? Were we getting there? Caviar on like the potato chip.
Yep. It's the way to do it. I don't know. These days, especially with kids, I want to be home more than I want to go out. And my favorite way to eat caviar is on my couch. And I'll say this too. You can eat better caviar and it's cheaper.
Yes.
I shouldn't say it's cheap. I shouldn't use the word cheap and caviar together because it's still such a luxury and still so expensive. But I think the whole point behind that sort of thing that I have called couch caviar, it's just, okay, you can do this on a Tuesday.
Right.
You can do it on Tuesday if you want to. You deserve it. You're working hard. No. And you know what? There's also more affordable caviars, right? Like salmon roe is a great entry level. It's a little fishier to me than the caviar, like once you kind of get into it, but it's a great entryway.
Yeah.
And it's like, $30, which I know that's still pricey, but
if you're wanting like a treat yourself situation.
Treat yourself. If you're celebrating something, open up a bottle of champagne. And this is the bite though with couch caviar. It's got to be the blue bag of the salt and vinegar, the Kettle brand. You know what I mean? Like
yes,
it's the perfect tang. They're so tangy and and I love the crunch. You got to find the right one. It's like a little wave.
Right.
So then you put on your big dollop of creme fraiche, which you've got to have, and then you go in with your caviar. And then a little minced shallot and minced chive, and that's the bite. Even hard-boiled egg, if you haven't chopped one up and throw it on there. Oh,
man.
So good.
Okay, so how many bites, is this like a one and done, or are we doing like 3? Like what's the perfect number?
For caviar?
Yeah, just like if you're making this couch caviar, how many are you making?
Like different combos?
I don't know, just to like enjoy one sit or 3, 10.
If we're being honest, I'll finish the 10.
Okay. You're like,
the whole damn thing.
This is it.
It's it. Yeah, no, I have a real problem with self-control when it comes to caviar.
It's also your personality, so.
It really is. And I just started eating it. Like this hasn't been like a lifelong thing for me. I just started like the last couple of years. And I'll never forget, my husband was out of town and I was like, I'd seen one of my friends. Do you follow Jackie Schimmel?
Yes.
If you don't, you need to. She is a hoot. Anyway, she's a big caviar girly. And I was DMing with her. I was like, I watch you do this all the time, like eat caviar. So she's like, you need to go to Trader Joe's and get the white truffle potato chip. So that's another good option too.
Ooh.
Jackie knows. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to sit and have caviar on my couch. And that's kind of where couch caviar came from. But I'll never keep calling my husband. I'm like, I'm having caviar tonight. I feel like it's going to be a new journey that I'm going on. And he's like, did it have to be caviar?
Yeah.
Is that really the journey we had to go down? I'm like,
you're like, well, I mean, I don't know.
What do you do? I'm just out here trying to do the work.
Just doing the Lord's work, honestly. Trying the caviars.
I've got to carry this journey on my back.
Exactly.
I've got to, you know what I mean? Someone's got to lead the charge. So I'm happy to do it.
Exactly. Okay, so taking a bit of an international turn, I saw you took a trip to Italy recently and came back with some not to do's for anybody planning a trip. Can you tell us about your favorite part of the trip and then walk us through some things to avoid?
So we went to Italy and it was the trip of a lifetime. I mean, I had never been before and it was just
I feel like you should just relocate there. That feels like so fun. Your life.
I mean, my husband is going through the dual citizenship process, so like maybe that could happen. No, it's really he's had a few meetings now and we're like, I think maybe.
I love that.
Oh, God, I love it. There's so much. I loved my favorite part besides like the landscape. I think Rome was actually one of my favorite parts of the trip. Just looking around, it's so humbling because you're like, oh, I'm just a blip. Like, I'm just a blip in history. Like, wow, people have been doing this for a long time. You're looking at the statues and you're seeing these paintings and you're walking. And just the architecture is insane. That was one of my favorite parts. But obviously the pasta. Like my first bite of pasta made me cry. I actually got emotional.
It's so it's so clean tasting, you know?
Yeah. You don't get bloated like you do here. There's no junk in it.
Yeah. It's rude
I just never had anything like it. And taking that first bite just felt like so surreal. Like my whole life I'd waited for that moment. So it was kind of like all these things that Chris is like, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, "I am."
Maybe.
Actually. Maybe so. So I think the pasta, the landscape was incredible. We also spent some time out in the countryside in Tuscany, and that was like you felt like you're in a movie. You know, like the landscape is insane. So beautiful. But as far as what not to do, you know, I mean, these are kind of, you could apply this to anywhere you go, but some of the things for us, because we fell into one or two tourist traps, and the one I'm talking about in particular was actually the night of my birthday. We were in Florence, and I will say Florence, if you don't go to the right spots, it can actually be very touristy.
I
mainly
agree.
heard Americans. Yeah. And I think it's gotten, from what the locals were telling me, it's gotten, I don't want to say the word worse over the years, but it's just gotten a lot more touristy, and a lot of locals are leaving. And so, so the night of my birthday, Chris is like, "I got reservations at the steakhouse." It's like apparently famous, and a ton of really great reviews, like 25,000
Wow.
good reviews. And we're like, "Oh, well, it's got to be good." So we walk up, and there's, of course, like people standing in front of it and just like taking pictures of it and then walking. I'm like, "Oh, okay." But then I start going, "Oh no. Oh no. Is this a tourist trap? Is it happening?" So then we get into the restaurant, and Taylor Swift is playing. And listen,
yeah,
I love Tay-Tay, but
you're like, that's being in Italy, not right.
Not a good sign, because they're catering to tourists probably.
Right.
Which, I mean, there's only so much you can, like, you know, outrun that. But and then we sit down, and we only hear Americans around us. So here are my takeaways, just even from the short look. And the food was the worst that we had the whole trip, and the most expensive, which was such a bummer. I was like, oh. So when you go to look up stuff on Yelp, because we didn't use a travel agent. My husband was basically our travel advisor. He set everything up, which he put a ton of time into it. But one takeaway that we had, when you go to look up restaurants, and you're seeing an abnormal amount of positive reviews, might be a tourist trap.
Right.
If you are walking into the restaurant and there's people walking by taking photos, and then like you just see a lot of that, might be a tourist trap.
Right.
If you hear Taylor Swift on the radio and you're in Europe, that one could go either way, but like probably a tourist trap. And you only hear Americans or people speaking, you know, a more common language that's not in the country that you're visiting, might be a tourist trap. So those are some like and then with the other place that we fell into, those tourist trap, all those things were present too. And also, if there's like a folding board outside the restaurant and people are like, "Come in, we have the best gelato you've ever had," run for the hills.
You're like,
don't fall into the trap, Susan. Just keep it moving. Go find a little hole in the wall place, or on the corner. Ask your concierge where to go. They'll actually tell you. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Well, it's so true though, because I feel like it's so easy. Like you feel almost like you're out of sorts in another country, and then it's like, ooh, familiar. But it's like that's really not what you're going to want to be like remembering is, oh, we ate this Americanized food in Italy.
Yeah. No. Our favorite places that we went to the whole trip were like places that like a local told us about, you know, and you only heard Italian around you. And I was like, this is it. And it was the best.
Yeah. We were in, it might have been Florence. We went there several years ago for one of our anniversaries, and we like found this hole in the wall wine bar that did like charcuterie and wine, and they just had like small bites, and it was like you could tell it was like a like locals dive bar kind of thing. And
I love that.
It like my husband Chris at the time was like, I like wanted more food than this. Like I thought we were getting like a bigger meal, and I was like, this is awesome. Like we're just like sitting in the culture, you know. but sometimes it can be, you really have to kind of go off the beaten path just because of how
You do.
popular some of these places have gotten.
Yeah. And if there is a major like historical landmark or tourist destination, the restaurants right around there
Yeah.
most of the
Don't
time
go.
aren't going to be great. I will say there was one, actually the first place that we went to in Rome, I forget, I can't, you know what, listen, I'm not going to try to pronounce it because the Italians have already come for me. I'm a bit
Right.
when I'm not pronouncing things correctly. So there's a place that I recommend in Rome that we had lunch at that is actually, the patio overlooks this, and that would be, there are exceptions to the rule. Like go there for a pasta and a spritz. I don't know about
Right.
dinner, but pasta and a spritz is great. But most of the time, if you're near the Eiffel Tower, this is another trip. I got food poisoning at this restaurant that, I mean, had the best view, but not great chicken. So maybe just have a drink there.
Food poisoning in another country, not good. Not good.
Not fun. So not fun. And that was, oh gosh, how long? That was my first time to Paris too. So I was there with my best friend and we were down for the count. It sucked.
Did it get her too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like at least you're better.
Better
like
together,
at least it was
for
like
sure.
two of y'all down and not like one being like, well, I'm going to go explore without you.
Totally.
Man. Gosh, food,
Rough.
a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, 1,000%. So now go.
Okay,
oh
so obviously you're the queen of food and apps and pairings, and I want to talk a little bit about your fashion sense, since this is Loverly Gray, and that's what we do over here. What would you say some of your essential clothing items are?
Definitely what I'm wearing. So
I know a classic button down.
A classic. I own so many of them that my husband recently has been like, another one? I'm like, it's different though. This one's like, oversized.
This one's linen. This is striped.
This is linen, honey. I love a button down. And it's funny because I would say my style is classic. It's, I'm not trendy at all, which I realize people have said to me that it ages me. But I don't care. Like it's it's how I've always dressed. Like you can, you can find a picture of little Cortney at literally 7 years old wearing a Ralph Lauren button down, like with a little sweater. Like it's just me. In fact, someone the other day on a Q&A asked, "How has your style changed from your 20s to your 30s?" And I posted a picture.
It hasn't.
Almost what I wear all the time. I'm like, not at all. And my mom will even tell you that too. She's like, "You've always just been you love a classic." So I don't know. For me, a classic button down is essential, and a few different kinds, because you reach for them at different moments. Like I'm casual around my house today, so I'm in an oversized, this is J. Crew. I've worn this so many times. Just a stripe. A stripe is my neutral.
I agree. I love a stripe. It feels like, oh, I don't want to just wear like a white button down. I want to wear a stripe button down. That feels like taking it up a notch.
Exactly. So let's see, that a good pair of jeans, which I'm also wearing right now. Even though it's 95 degrees outside. I love a good denim.
I agree. Like also it might be 95 outside, but inside it's not.
It definitely isn't at my house.
Right.
We keep this thing. I mean, it's ice cold. When my mom comes over, she's like, "Do you have a blanket?" I'm like,
I need a sweater.
Yeah, honestly, the shawl comes in. I love the term coastal grandmother.
Yes.
By the way, and I have become friends online with the girl that coined that. I'm obsessed with her. Her name is Lex. Do you follow her on Instagram?
Yes.
Oh my God. I just love her content. She's so cute.
The coastal grandmother vibe is, it feels like comforting too, in a way. And I feel like the grand millennials, it's just, it feels like home in a weird way.
I like that.
I agree.
Yeah, familiar. It's we watched Diane Keaton growing up, Father of the Bride, Nina Banks. Like, if I had to say my style icon, it would be Nina Banks, to be honest with you, from Father of the Bride.
A classic turtleneck, like in all seasons.
All the time.
I know, a good loafer. Like,
love a loafer.
She's just, I agree.
Classic.
I even think just like a striped cardigan. Like, some of these pieces that they feel elevated, but they're simple, it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm not a
Yeah.
super trendy person either. Like the styles I'm
Mm-hmm.
usually showing, like occasionally I'll drop in something trendy and I'm like, this feels weird, but I think
Yeah.
some people might like it. But I am like most comfortable in my more like classic styles, and it just is what it
Mm-hmm.
is.
I feel that. So feel that.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, okay, what's the whole thing with the capsule wardrobe? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like just having the few pieces? Is that kind of what that means?
So yes, which I think is great. I'm not really like I could tell you what to have in a capsule wardrobe, but I feel like I like to wear more past just those few
Mm,
things. Like it feels like limiting a little bit, but I think like
mm,
traveling with a capsule wardrobe where you can like style the pants with like several different shirts is great. But essentially, it's basically just having some of these staple pieces that you can like mix and match and just wear within like this set item or set list of things,
mm.
which
Got it. That makes
you
sense.
can get a lot of the coastal grandmother vibes in that and just make that into a capsule. So
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with that. Your classic, like,
Like I love, not to brand drop, but I love Frank and Eileen.
okay,
This is a
I'm
new
not,
thing. Have you? Oh my
no, I
gosh.
haven't. Tell me more.
The denim dress. Everyone was telling me to get the denim dress, and I finally got the denim dress, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so good.
Okay. What's the style? Does it have a collar? Is it just like
It
a,
it's a collar, it's a
okay.
button from top to bottom.
Yeah.
They have a long one, and I got the short one. I don't remember the name of it, but it's just
Oh.
like a chambray, just like lived in. I got the like
Mm.
it's a vintage material, so it just feels. I wore it all day yesterday, and I was like, it was incredible.
Okay, so we have to talk about the cookbook. Um,
Yeah,
like, tell me. I know there's a lot you can't tell yet because we got
right.
secrets. But first of all, congratulations! Like, so
Thank
freaking pumped
you.
for you.
Oh my
Like,
gosh,
have
thank
you
you so much.
always wanted to write a cookbook, or like, how did this come about?
I think it all. I feel like I'm always saying it goes back to when I was a kid.
Yeah,
Wanting to have this cooking show, which then for me makes sense to do a cookbook,
yeah,
right? Maybe that's the blueprint of what I do next. I would say it didn't feel right up until like fall is when I first started having conversations with my management because they had been checking in for the
yeah.
last couple of years. Like, we feel it's time. I'm like, it's not time. And finally, like September, October, I was like, I think it's time. And so we had the first initial meeting, and I literally got an email the next day or 2 days later from a book agent in New York who was like, I follow you on TikTok. I love your stuff. Have you ever thought about doing a cookbook? I think the like little subject line said Cheese Gal Cookbook question mark. And I was like, I can't believe the time on that. It was
Oh my
crazy. And
gosh.
really the whole process from start till now, it's been full of moments like that,
Yeah,
where all of a sudden the stars have just aligned and like just more than I could have ever, this is more than I could have ever imagined for myself, truly, just like to have this cookbook. So
yeah,
yeah, we just got the deal officially like 2 weeks ago today. And it's a long process.
yeah.
Like it won't come out until 2026, but it makes sense that I told you now because the title is Oversharing, which is what I do with everything. I love the
It's
title because
great.
it's like, look at me telling you 2 years before it even comes out, I'm oversharing, and then also oversharing recipes and like these memorable moments. And though it's a cookbook, it's still going to be very me, a very
Yeah,
lifestyle. I'm not a chef. I don't pretend to be one. But I think having humor carried throughout the
yeah.
book is also really important. As you can see, I don't take myself too seriously at all. I don't take life too seriously. I'm
Right,
not like some buttoned up. I'm not Martha, you know what I mean? And Martha has her own thing, and she's like a perfectionist, and she's an icon. Don't get me wrong, but
right.
I'm very and not to compare myself to her, by the way,
But
but I'm very like opposite. Very like,
But
it'll
like
be
that's
fine.
gonna relate to so many people who are like, oh, let me
Mhm.
just like flip through. I have people coming over. Perfect. Like here's the thing I'm gonna throw together. Like,
Totally.
and then I just think of like this community that you've cultivated over on Instagram
Mhm.
who, maybe like post something quick in stories and then it goes away and they're like, wait, I want that recipe. I can't get it. I can't find it. Now they can just go find it.
Yes, it's all going to be in one place,
so cool.
And it's going to be, I'm so excited. And I just have this feeling in my gut. It's going to launch me into something. I don't know what it is. I knew it was the next step. And like I mentioned, all of the stars sort of aligned and I felt this gut pull to do it. And everything that has worked out the way that it has, like, not to get spiritual, but I'm like, wow, this has all been God.
You're
really.
like,
I can't even take credit for it.
It's
pretty amazing. So excited.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to like continue following along, get the behind the scenes, like whatever you are able to share. I'll be right there cheering you along because it's like so
You're
cool.
The best.
Truly so cool.
That means a lot. Really means a lot.
Of course. Okay, one question that I have that I like wrap up all of my episodes asking my guests. What was the most meaningful act of kindness that somebody has extended to you that has had lasting impact on your life?
Oh, that is an incredible question.
Deep.
Oh my gosh. One that has lasted. Oh man. Oh my God. Let me think about this for a second. I would say I would probably go back to my godmother, to be honest with you. There was a time in my life that I was, I wouldn't call me troubled, but I was in trouble, very much so, like around this time that she actually taught me how to make the cheese board. And she really took me under her wing. And not only did she teach me how to make cheese boards, like I mentioned, but she taught me so much about forgiving yourself. And that for me was an act of kindness because, like I mentioned, it was a time in my life where I felt so troubled. I felt so lost and I didn't know where to turn, who to ask for advice. I felt very judged, very condemned. And she really just showed me so much kindness in those few months where I was going through such a hard time. I don't know. I feel like that has had, honestly, a lasting impact on me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she taught me, like I just mentioned, it's like, you can forgive yourself and you can change and you can move on.
Yeah.
That was something that I really took away from that. And I've had to remind myself of that, especially as a mother, forgiving yourself is an important thing. You can apply that on so many aspects of your life. But it was so kind of her.
Right.
To,
like she didn't have to do that.
She's not my mom.
Right.
She didn't have to do that.
Well, and really, so much of her is
me.
What started Cheese Gal,
1,000%. She's mentored me in so many ways.
That's
for
really
sure.
special.
I don't know. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
That's a great one. That's honestly, when I asked this, I was like, I wonder if she's going to bring it back to that because that would
bring it back.
My
came back.
I love it. Well, tell our friends and listeners on on Life with Loverly where they can find you on Instagram and TikTok.
So I am on Instagram under Cheese Gal, literally just Cheese Gal on there. TikTok, I'm also Cheese Gal, but it's spelled a little differently. It's because I made the account Cheese Gal and forgot the password and have not been able to get back into it.
I did that too. So now I'm official Loverly Gray, not just Loverly Gray, and it's so annoying. So I feel you.
So you know my pain. And I also did that on YouTube as well, by the way. So I'm Cheese Gal, CHZ on TikTok. And then I'm on YouTube for a while. I was kind of uploading a few episodes a month of like my own cooking show. Also under Cheese Gal. And let's see, those are all the social media platforms.
You should
for now, right?
change your YouTube to Cheese Gal with Dan and Dan.
Oh my God. Honestly. Honestly, we need to bring Dan and Dan
or
back.
Change it and be like Court and Dan and Dan.
I just need to know, where did I get the name Dan?
I don't know.
And why were there two of them?
I mean, not to like continue spitballing, but like if you need to dedicate your cookbook to somebody, Dan and Dan feels like a good
1,000%. They honestly, it's the recognition that they deserve.
I know.
Okay? We need to really give them their moment.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Yes, this was such a treat. I know our listeners will absolutely love this episode. We're going to leave all your details and how to find you and all the things in our show notes. So Life with Loverly friends, until next time.